Imagine 239 lives. A mother, a father, children, husbands and wives, friends, colleagues, all boarding a plane for what should have been a routine trip. The takeoff is completely normal. Everything is going according to plan. But then, just 40 minutes into the flight, total, deafening silence. This isn't a movie plot. This is the true story of Flight MH370, arguably the greatest and most haunting mystery in the history of modern aviation. Think about it. A 77-meter-long Boeing 777, one of the most reliable and advanced aircraft ever built, simply vanished from the face of the Earth. What happened to those 239 people? And the question that still echoes a decade later. Where is the plane? The date was March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was scheduled to fly from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing, China. The aircraft, a Boeing 777-200ER, had a flawless safety record. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members. The captain was experienced, the crew was professional, and the weather was clear. Everything was under control. The flight took off without a hitch and climbed to its cruising altitude. Then came the final, now infamous radio transmission from the cockpit to Malaysian air traffic control. "Good night, Malaysian 370. And after that, nothing. A complete and utter void. The plane's transponder, which communicates its position to civilian radar, suddenly went dark. MH370 simply blinked off the screen. It strayed from its planned flight path, never making contact with Vietnamese air traffic controllers as expected. It never reached its destination. The world woke up to the news that a massive passenger jet was missing. The initial shock was just the beginning of a story that would grow stranger and more heartbreaking with each passing day. At first, the most logical assumptions were a catastrophic explosion or a sudden violent crash. But as the first hours turned into days, a chilling new piece of information emerged from military radar data. MH370 didn't just disappear. It didn't fall out of the sky. Instead, it made a sharp, deliberate turn, deviating completely from its course to Beijing. It then flew on, undetected, for hours. But where was it going, and who was flying it? Someone was at the controls, guiding the plane on this new, mysterious path. Yet all communication systems had been systematically shut down. The plane was flying dark, silent. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate action. But why? What could possibly be the reason for such a thing? What followed was the largest and most expensive search operation in aviation history. Dozens of countries pooled their resources, ships, planes, advanced sonar equipment, all scouring a vast expanse of the South China Sea and later the Indian Ocean. Millions upon millions of dollars were spent. The search area was immense, a seemingly impossible task. In the early days, hope was high. Every report of potential debris, every oil slick, was investigated with frantic urgency. But each lead turned into a dead end. Floating garbage, shipping containers, false clues that only deepened the frustration and despair. For the families of the 239 people on board, it was a unique and cruel kind of torture. They were suspended in a state of limbo, caught between a sliver of hope and the growing dread of the unknown. No answers, no wreckage, no closure, just an endless, agonizing wait. As months turned into a year, the case grew cold, and the world's attention began to fade. But then, just when it seemed the mystery might never be solved, a piece of evidence washed ashore. In July 2015, a part of a wing, known as a flaperon, was found on Réunion Island, a remote speck of land in the Indian Ocean, thousands of kilometers from the initial search zones. Investigators confirmed it. The debris was from the missing Boeing 777. This was the first concrete proof. MH370 had indeed gone down in the vast, deep waters of the southern Indian Ocean. The discovery shifted the entire focus of the investigation. More fragments began to appear over the following months and years, washed up on the coastlines of Mozambique, Tanzania, and Madagascar. All were consistent with the missing aircraft. But these were just scattered pieces, fragments. They told us the plane had met a tragic end, but they didn't tell us how or where. Where was the main fuselage? Where were the black boxes, the flight data and cockpit voice recorders that held the key to unlocking the final moments of the flight? Where was the impact point? The mystery, instead of being solved, only deepened. If the plane had crashed with enough force to break apart, why couldn't the main wreckage field be located? It led investigators to their primary theory: a ghost flight. After the mysterious diversion and the cutting of communications, the plane likely flew on autopilot for hours until it simply ran out of fuel. With the engines starved, control was lost, and the massive jet would have entered a high-speed, spiraling descent into the sea. A death dive. This scenario would explain the lack of a controlled ditching and why the wreckage was so fragmented and spread out. But this theory still leaves the most critical question unanswered. Why did the plane divert in the first place? Was it a massive, unprecedented technical failure that somehow disabled all communication systems while leaving the plane flyable for hours? There's simply no evidence to support this. That leaves the most likely and most disturbing possibility: human intervention. But who and why? The pilot and co-pilot were subjected to intense scrutiny. Their lives, their finances, their psychological states were all picked apart. Yet investigators found no credible links to terrorism, no signs of significant personal trouble, no clear motive for a mass murder-suicide. 2 passengers were found to be traveling on stolen passports, which initially raised alarms. But they were quickly identified as asylum seekers with no connection to any nefarious plot. The most shocking part of the MH370 saga is the sheer lack of answers where there should be plenty. The deliberate diversion, the systematic shutdown of communication systems. This points to interference. Someone with knowledge of the aircraft's systems intentionally made Flight MH370 invisible. They made it go electronically silent. Someone, for some reason we may never know, wanted that plane to disappear. This is the harshest and most chilling reality of the story. Was it a meticulously planned crime? A final, desperate act? The truth is still out there, lost somewhere in the depths of the Indian Ocean. Today, more than a decade after the plane vanished, the mystery persists. The official underwater search has been suspended. The pain for the families of the 239 souls lost remains as real and raw as ever. They are left with a collection of facts. A plane went missing, fragments were found, and it ended its journey in the sea. But what they don't have, what the world doesn't have, is the one thing that matters most: the reason why. And this gaping hole in our understanding continues to haunt the world of aviation. A stark reminder that even in our modern age of technology, some mysteries remain profoundly, terrifyingly unsolved. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video informative, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into fascinating stories. Stay curious and stay safe.